Okay, here we are, YouTube Live. Turn it off. Okay, do we have some folks with us today? Just wait for just a second for our people to jump in. Good to see everybody. We'll just wait a minute here. Let me get all pretty for you. I'm going to start this in 1 minute. Okay, let's start. Listen, thank you for joining us on our weekly YouTube Live. We're doing this on Friday. Normally we do these on Thursdays at 4:30. We're heading into a long weekend, and we want to send you into the long weekend with some fabulous information about CancerVax. If you were here last week, we talked about the upcoming patent cliff causing major problems for big pharma, and how that pressure creates opportunity for smaller biotech companies like CancerVax. Okay, we've got an audience here. Let's get going. My name is Byron Elton. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of CancerVax and a cancer survivor, coming to you today from the West Coast in California. A beautiful, beautiful day, heading into a long weekend. Appreciate you joining us today. If you were here last week, you remember we talked about the patent cliff. That's very important, and the major problems that it causes big pharma, and how the pressure that puts on these big companies is an opportunity for smaller biotech companies like CancerVax. So we talked about it last week, and then this week something happened that makes that conversation very, very real. Again, Byron Elton, Chief Executive Officer of CancerVax. If this is your first time hearing about us, I would encourage you to go to our website, CancerVax.com. A lot of information there, our milestones, press releases, our the people who make up CancerVax, very impressive scientific advisory board, which you'll want to spend some time with. Short explainer video on there about our technology, very novel, very exciting, that you'll enjoy. If you'd like to talk to a real live person, I'd encourage you to go to callcancervax.com. We have a very simple scheduling app in there. You can schedule a call. We get calls every day from all over the world. We love to talk to people about it. My personal email is byron@cancervax.com. Again, I get lots of emails every day. I answer every single one of them. Happy to engage you in conversation and share all the comings and goings of CancerVax and our technology that we're very, very excited about. So today we're talking about, well, last week we talked about the patent cliff, and then why that's important to big pharma companies. And then this week something happened that was an absolute real world example of exactly what we talked about. So on February 9th, Eli Lilly announced that it's acquiring Orna Therapeutics. That's one you might want to Google. Orna, O-R-N-A, Therapeutics, in a deal valued at up to $2.4 billion. Now, Orna Therapeutics is not a phase 3 company. They're not a commercial company. They're a company that is currently in preclinical and IND enabling stages. So it's not theory. That's the patent cliff in action. Today, I want to connect the dots for you. So here's the short version of what the patent cliff means. So pharmaceutical companies depend on patent protection to generate high margin revenue. But once that exclusivity ends, generic or what they call biosimilar competitors enter, and revenue can fall between 70 and 90% very, very quickly. So here we are in 2026. And over the next several years, it's projected that more than $300 billion in annual revenue will face patent expiration. Let's focus in on one drug in particular, one that I'm sure you've all heard of, Keytruda. Keytruda, which is owned by and developed by Merck and Company, is currently the number one, the best selling cancer drug in the world. This will blow your mind. Every year for Merck, it generates 25 to 30 billion dollars in annual revenue. It's not lifetime revenue, that's every single year. And those core patent projections expire 2028, so in 2 years. When biosimilars enter, and they will, Merck will lose tens of billions of dollars in yearly revenue. So just think about it. If you were in charge of Merck and you're facing that 2 years, say, in 2 years we're going to lose 10 up to 25 to 30 billion dollars a year in revenue. That's one single drug supporting an enormous percentage of a company's valuation, facing a revenue cliff. And so that's the pressure that we talked about last week. Well, that pressure creates urgency. When a company faces a potential multi-billion dollar annual revenue loss, they don't respond casually. They accelerate and they invest. And most importantly, they acquire, like Lilly just did with Orna Therapeutics. Now, they can do it internally, and sometimes they do, but developing an internal replacement drug takes at least 10 years, billions of dollars in capital, and 90% of them fail. So instead of building everything internally, the large pharmaceutical companies often choose to acquire or purchase innovation, not because they want to, but because they have to. Which brings us to the announcement that we talked about this week. So, as I mentioned, on the 9th of this month, Eli Lilly announced it had acquired Orna, $2.4 billion. By the way, with certain milestones, if they're met, that could escalate to close to $9 billion. Now, who is Orna? What do they do? So they're developing in vivo CAR T therapies using what they call circular RNA technology. Let's break that down. So traditional CAR T therapy extracts T cells from a patient, genetically engineers them outside the body, expands them, and then reinfuses them into the body. It's complex, it's expensive, personalized, and Orna's goal is very different and why they're getting so much attention and this current acquisition. They're working on delivering circular RNA directly into the body to reprogram immune cells in vivo. Essentially, they're attempting to create CAR T-like effects without the ex vivo cell manipulation. But here's the key point: they're not commercial. They're preclinical and in IND enabling stages. So that means they're still preparing for human clinical trials. And yet, given their place in the movie right now, Eli Lilly is paying $2.4 billion minimum, maybe up to $9 billion. The question is why? Well, it's in their platform. This is not just a single therapy that Orna is developing. They're developing a circular RNA platform that could generate multiple cell therapy programs. And Big Pharma doesn't just need one new drug. They need new engines that can generate revenue for them. They need platforms, and remember that word, that's important, particularly as it pertains to CancerVax, capable of producing multiple shots on goal. We're in the middle of the Winter Olympics right now, so you'll forgive that hockey analogy there. But it's where platform science commands premiums because platforms provide pipeline optionality, pipelines provide multi-indication expansion, and platforms provide strategic long-term leverage. Okay, that's Orna. Now let's compare that to CancerVax. We're not developing a one-off therapy targeting a single mutation. We are building, if you've been following us, a universal cancer treatment platform designed to trick the immune system into thinking cancer cells are well-recognized pathogens like measles, like smallpox, so that our immune system can effectively kill it. Detect, hunt, detect, and kill. So it's a different mechanism. It's a different biological strategy, but it's similar in one respect to Orna. It's a platform architecture. So Orna is focused on in vivo CAR T reprogramming via circular RNA delivery, and ours is cell therapy. Well, it's what they call cell therapy technology. On the other hand, we are focused on a strategy designed to stimulate the immune recognition of cancer cells through induced marker expression, potentially enabling broad tumor targeting. So one approach engineers immune cells, and the other enhances immune detection. But we're very similar in the sense that we're both operating within immuno-oncology. And most importantly, we both represent scalable scientific platforms. And here's what matters. Orno is being acquired while still preclinical and IND stage. That tells you something about how big pharma is thinking. They're willing to play for platform potential, to invest before pre-revenue, and pay for the clinical trials. Pay before the clinical trials even begin. Why? Because they need future pipeline replacement today. So I want to be very clear here, and I want to be careful. That doesn't mean that every biotech is going to be acquired. It also doesn't eliminate scientific risk, but it does demonstrate real time something very important. That as we speak, big pharma, all of them, are actively scanning early stage innovation like CancerVax. So when a company like CancerVax demonstrates four things: differentiated science, platform scalability, oncology relevance, and strong IP, it becomes strategically very interesting to them, especially in an environment where drugs like Keytruda face patent cliffs. In the case of Keytruda, 2 years from now, where oncology remains a multi-billion-dollar global market, and the pipeline gaps are widening. So this acquisition that was announced this week, it's not random. It's part of a broader capital reallocation cycle. And that's what we talked about, that macro cycles, what we just discussed last week. This week, we actually saw it happen in real time. Last week, we talked about theory. This week, we saw execution. So again, patent cliffs, and remember that. Patent cliffs create pressure. Pressure drives acquisition, and acquisition validates platform value. Platform-based biotech companies operating in the immuno-oncology field are directly within that strategic field of view. And that's where we exist. That's where CancerVax exists. Again, if you're joining us for the first time, I would direct you to CancerVax.com. We've made it very easy for people to invest at our CancerVax, that's VAX.startengine.com. If you'd like to have a conversation with an executive, I would encourage you to go to callcancervax.com, schedule an appointment. We'll get you on the phone, answer all the questions that you have. But understand, if you take away one thing from our little discussion this morning, we are building a scalable immunotherapy platform at a time when large pharmaceutical companies are actively searching for their next generation of oncology innovation. So if you want to understand biotech investing, you don't just watch trial data, you watch where the capital flows. And this week, $2.4 billion flowed towards a preclinical platform. And that should tell us all something. It does. Appreciate your time today. Have a wonderful long weekend. Call CancerVax.com to schedule a call. CancerVax.com to give you more information about the company. CancerVax.startengine.com for those of you who would like to either invest or enhance your position with CancerVax. So grateful that you joined us today. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.